Don't need this.
And it's just amused by the name when we came up with that. Oh wow, our initials.
We may already be on there.
I did not mean to click that.
We have so much room today.
I know, I feel like I feel like I'm very far away from both of
Especially
you.
when we're like after ESPC too.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, May 11th, 2023 regular meeting of the school committee. We have just returned from executive session and I would invite those who are here in the studio to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so the first item on our agenda is the public forum for the Hopkins School Addition project presentation. And Dr. Kavanaugh, I would turn that over to you for the slides.
Sure. So we have had so many questions about the Hopkins School Expansion Project. And so tonight we wanted to present some information that we hope clears up some of the questions for folks in our community. So many people are wondering, why does Hopkins need an addition? If you're able to look in the box over on the left-hand side, and this work was done for us when we had our district-wide study done, the as-built enrollment for the Hopkins School is 628 students. At this moment in time, we have 640 students currently enrolled in Hopkins. So you can see that we are currently exceeding our design enrollment. And when you exceed the enrollment by 12 students, it gets uncomfortable. But one of the other things that you see on there is that up on the top, there's mention of one special needs classroom where they are allotting that space to 12 students. We know now that with the changing profiles of our kids, we need spaces for ESOL. We need spaces just to have small reading groups, even if a student is not on an IEP. So right now, a lot of our conference rooms, a lot of our offices have turned into smaller spaces where kids are getting instruction. So we say, you know, we're only 12 students over the capacity, but the needs of the students are dictating different needs of space. It is projected, the last line in that orange box, that by the year 2031, we should have about 802 students in the Elmwood School. So as you take a look at that, you realize 162 additional students are not going to fit in that school. As it is today, it's very cramped in there. So the school district did go to town meeting and we were approved for an $800,000 expenditure. What is that money going to be used for? That's for a feasibility study all the way through construction documents. So people, I think, are wondering, what do you mean when you talk about construction documents? Right now, what we have are some of those, you know, loose-fitting kinds of images that say, yes, you could put a school on that size, or if a school is X number of square feet, and we just took a number, how much would it cost per square foot? But I know people have heard numbers like 21 million, 41 million. None of those numbers become a reality until we go through this process where we go through feasibility, engineering studies, design studies, and we have things in place that say, this is our very best guess because this is what this school will look like. And I don't know, Mrs. Romnick, if you want to add to this, because this is really sort of your work.
Well, as this goes further down the line of design and construction documents, at several junctures, it will be sent to cost estimators. And typically it's two different firms. So they'll go through the documents as they exist and give us their costs that they're seeing in the industry. And then we take the two cost estimates and we reconcile them, you know, because at the end of the day, we want to understand if this one is higher than this one, what were they seeing in those documents versus this? Because ultimately, when we put it out to bid, we want to make sure that these documents are very clear. And so when we go through these cost estimators is when we start seeing truer numbers.
Can I just highlight in the gray on the left where it says with existing modulars? I think sometimes people get confused when we say as built for Hopkins, because
Yes.
Hopkins was actually built originally for a much smaller population, but we've added, in an attempt to keep pace with enrollment growth, we have, in an affordable way, we have been adding modulars, and Ms. Rothman, if you can talk to how many, because I've lost track, but we've added modulars so that we can accommodate the classroom space. But to the bullets on the right, what that doesn't do is give you any additional common space. So as the enrollment goes up, we've kept pace to the best of our ability with modulars. We don't have any more room for modulars at this point. And we desperately need more cafeteria space, more gym space. You know, the hallways are crowded, et cetera. So how many modulars do we have?
So the set of modulars that we added were 4 additional classrooms, 2 over 2.
Thank you. And just to elaborate a little bit on what will happen to Hopkins when we do this addition, there is a plan to create a whole new cafeteria. The cafeteria space now is too small for the children who are enrolled there, and the cafeteria abuts the gymnasium. When you start to look at how many sections of physical education our students will need, and right now we always have 2 classes in the gym simultaneously. So when we start to creep up and add additional classrooms, what we're going to have to do is create additional sections of physical education. Those numbers will start to exceed the amount of time we have for children to be spending in the gymnasium. So that's why we have to do something with our cafeteria and our gym. We really just don't have that space. So you can push into the cafeteria because of proximity to the gymnasium.
And any expansion that comes out of this study will continue to rely on the modulars that we built.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The other piece back to the cafeteria is, not everybody at home may know that we already have 4 lunches going in there that we've already tried to make do by dividing it up more. I can imagine kids would be eating at 9 a.m. if we kept backing it up that way.
Yes.
And just because we added the modulars, right, there's a lot of facility stuff. We haven't added extra restrooms, et cetera, right? So all of these, like, kind of key life comfort pieces are overwhelmed too.
That's correct.
Yes. And faculty restrooms too. I
Yeah.
mean, as we keep adding kids, we keep adding faculty.
Right.
So the last 2 bullets also improved traffic patterns, and you'll see that in a diagram, and then increased parking. So we've added so many faculty that now it's getting challenging to find parking spaces for visitors and for all of the faculty and staff who inhabit the building. We did have a question at town meeting. Would you be able to expand on that site, that facility on that site? And so this drawing here shows you that yes, you can do that. What you see here is the potential use of 4 of the modular classrooms, the newer ones from the Elmwood School. Here you see a drawing that shows the potential addition, and Mrs. Rothmick, I believe this is cafeteria. If you reroute the traffic so that it comes out a little bit further, you can reconfigure to get 28 additional parking spaces in here. So those are some of the gains. And then a question that we have is, what will all of this expanded play area look like? What are those needs, and how will it fit in this area right here?
And the existing modulars are the white on the sort of lower end.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is the 2 over 2.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but they look identical to the ones that are at Elmwood, the new ones, not the old ones, so that
Yes.
if the ones from Elmwood were to move over, they wouldn't stick out.
That's correct.
All right, people were wondering, what is the tax impact of $800,000? If we took the average household cost, the average tax bill, on the average household cost, it's $9. We have also had folks at town meeting ask, why not just go back into center school? We have to be very clear with the community that center school is just not an option. Some of the reasons why are, just the school itself. So Dan McIntyre from the Permanent Building Committee had said that center school is not a viable building because all the classroom finishes need to be replaced, all the HVAC mechanicals need to be replaced, fire protection needs to be expanded and upgraded, the domestic water system needs to be replaced, All the plumbing fixtures need to be replaced. Sanitary waste and vent piping needs to be evaluated, but most likely that will need full replacement as well. The electrical system needs to be replaced, and the second floor is not handicapped accessible in that building. So one of the other things I think that we have to remember is that way back when we engaged with the Massachusetts School Building Authority to replace the center school with the Marathon School, we told the MSBA that that building was no longer viable as a place for teaching and learning. It was at end of life, that you couldn't deliver high quality instruction in there. And so if you say that to the MSBA, they take that as a promise that it's not going to be sort of a bait and switch, that they give you $25 million to build a new school and then you say, tricked you, we're going to move everybody right back in. So there is, a legal stipulation that says we will not turn that building back into a school, or at least a K-12 school. Could it someday be renovated to be a preschool? Sure it could, or an 18 to 22 program. Yes, those are within the allowed limits, but certainly you cannot turn that back into a K-12 school. So those, I think, are very important things to share with the community about the Hopkins project, and maybe even a little bit of flavor about why center school just won't work for us.
And even without all those, center school capacity is nowhere near what we need, right?
No, you could probably fit one grade level into center school, because when we were leaving there, we had a couple of grade levels in there, just K and 1, and even with that, we had class sizes at the early elementary level of like 24 and 25, kids being educated in hallways. It wasn't good in there.
My son was the last kindergarten in there, and we was like, don't touch anything.
Yes.
Without wearing gloves or whatever. Because it was a little funky in there.
Yeah. A little funky.
And my understanding is the building, from not being used, has decompensated even from what it was. And that it was deemed obsolete by the MSBA, and the amount of money that it would have taken to repair that in lieu of the Marathon building would have been significantly more.
Yes, Mr. Person will tell us if the floor tile and the ceiling tiles are asbestos tile, which is exceedingly costly to remove.
Well, we have a town, wasn't there a center school reuse group committee that had like a whole bunch of other ideas, but they were kind of more community focused and education focused, right? Yeah.
In that, there's the permanent building committee is going to have a forum later this month. They had announced at town meeting
Okay.
to talk about,
Center school. Yeah.
and potentially Elmwood, it sounded like, as well.
Oh, that's a good question.
If Elmwood becomes,
Yeah.
not a school.
So now the question is, do we have anyone from the public that wants to talk about the Hopkins
Do you
School?
have, I don't know, did you have more to?
No, it's all
Okay. So this is a public forum. If there's anybody here who would like to ask questions or to comment on that, you can come on up and introduce yourself and your address. You can have a seat right at the table so the microphone picks you up.
Hi, my name is
Welcome.
Eric Gessner. I'm a new resident here, back in July.
Welcome.
So my daughter is in middle school. We live on Chamberlain Street. So I was at the town meeting recently, and so something came up with regard to the noise in the town and the high school students and all the students hearing the gun noise from the gun people, the people shooting guns about a mile away. So I was wondering whether somehow we can combine the building of the school with sound improvements with regard to school students hearing that noise, maybe putting barriers up with regard to, and sort of incorporate the cost of the school, and also a cost of maybe putting noise barriers up to prevent the sound from.
So as we go through in the design of the building, some of the things that we'll be looking at is the HVAC. And so the HVAC with the new, and is it possible to tie it into the old? If we're able to do something like that, then one of the things that we'll be evaluating is the building envelope itself. So that would be the, the windows, the walls, and is there a way of improving those from an energy efficiency, but that also may get to more soundproofing? Because if we're
But I wasn't just thinking
thickening
about that, but like even buying up land around the shooting gallery where they shoot to put up a wall, getting it at the source.
So if we were to look at the shooting gallery itself, that would be a question for the town because the school doesn't own the property there. We can look at what we could do around the school.
I realize that, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, well, the smartest thing is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So you can't tell the gun people to stop making noise because that's illegal to do. They're allowed to make noise all they want, but you could buy up a land around it and like a small sliver and put a wall, like they do at highways, right?
Yeah.
Highways have walls around them to prevent the wall. Airports do too, right? Nobody, it doesn't bother the gun people if you put up a wall to prevent the sound from penetrating the neighborhood, including the schools. I think that's maybe, you have to think broader than the school envelope. That's what, as part of this project, I think it would be, both the parents in the neighborhood would appreciate that, and also everybody else. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm literally a mile, 0.3 away from the shooting gallery, and you hear it all the time. And so does the school. The school's right across the street from me, okay, as well as the middle school. But I think you should think broader than just the envelope of the school to stop this, because it makes much more sense to put up a wall around the shooting gallery than it does to just try to make the noise less for the high school. You'd be making the people in the neighborhood much happier. They just built a new housing development right on Chamberlain Street, which is a half mile away from the shooting gallery. Those people can't sell houses, and then they don't want to come here and bring their students here if they're going to be hearing guns all day long. So my idea is get it at the source and incorporate that into your school plan of building. That might be satisfying everybody. That's my idea. Anyway, I think you should consider that.
Thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
For sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Comments? Come up here if you want to make a comment, just so it picks up on the microphone. Introduce yourself.
I can't hear you.
So introduce yourself so that
My name is
folks at home.
Susan Stevenson, and Ms. Rothermilch, I was wondering if you have any idea what the impact on the money in the budget, which was close to begin with, would be if, in fact, the debt ceiling deal, as outlined by the president of the Massachusetts School Board Association, laid it out. Do you have any idea what impact that might have?
I'm not sure I follow the question. Do
Well,
you mean the CFO of the town of Hopkinton?
No, as the financial person, we just went through a budget and it was a struggle to begin with. If the United States House is trying to elicit a deal with the president on a debt ceiling
Oh, I see what you're
package,
saying.
and it appears that there would be much cutting of funding to Massachusetts, in addition to the cutting of funds for that were potentially promised to help students pay back school loans. What might those cuts be to the IDEA program, IDEA, to funding school lunches, those kinds of things?
So it's
I know that-
it's a very broad spectrum on the answer to that question. The governor of Massachusetts has said right now the tax revenue for the month of April is actually low for the state budget. But she has already put out that there would be no reductions in what they can put in place is what they call 9C cuts, where they actually reduce the budget in the current fiscal year. She's already said that that is not going to happen. So moving on to federal funding, by the time it gets down to the town of Hopkinton, the impact is right now hard to completely say. Instead of with the IDEA going up, it may be held harmless. So it may stay steady. So our budget would not be impacted because we don't count on an increase to our IDEA funding in our budget. we always count on level.
So I just want to circle back, just because I want to finish up our discussion on Hopkins right now before we.
Okay.
But that might be something that we could bring forward to another committee meeting. That's okay, just.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have questions on just to finish up with our public forum on Hopkins? Any questions on the presentation? Any comments on the addition as a whole?
So I just have clarification for myself and the community. So we passed this at town meeting. I think many community members think that this funding will go forward, but we have to have a yes vote at the election on Monday. Is that correct? Okay. So we have, it requires both because we are borrowing for the 800,000. And the other money that we need for this, the school committee voted to use our stabilization fund because this would be a one-time expense to build capacity, which was very much in keeping with the spirit of that fund. So I just want to clarify that.
Do we know where that exists on the ballot? Do we know what number ballot question it is?
Number 5.
Number 5, okay.
We have, I think, number 4 is our HVAC article. Is that?
I'm so happy you know.
I was looking at the specimen ballot, I think, yesterday.
Thank you.
So one question well, not question, but one thing I would love to see in the plans as we move forward. I know there's a lot of concern about how taxes are going to move as we have the Elmwood new school and, the capital expenditures for that and the capital expenditures for this. If we were to not build the Elmwood school, then we would not be able to move those modulars, right? So knowing the cost difference between having the modulars and having to build out the extra classrooms, I think would be very useful in the long run.
Right, it's a great. Yeah. What does it look like if we can't do parts of our plan? Is that what you're kind of
Right,
yeah.
exactly. We've got a comprehensive plan. I think most of the town doesn't, well, I won't say most, but a lot of town people who do not have children don't watch school committee, so they haven't seen the large comprehensive plan that that has been laid out.
Yeah.
So I think having these little tidbits and available will help people think through the costs.
All right. Thank you very much for bringing that all forward. And will that be available up on the website for people to access these?
Put that up in the morning, absolutely.
I think those visuals are helpful for people in understanding. And I think back to the point about that this is, even though we voted at a town meeting, it's still an ongoing open thing through Monday anyway.
Right.
We'll have a definitive decision on that.
And I like Leah's point that there really is a comprehensive plan, and if folks would like to see that as well, we could bring that to this meeting as well.
Dr. Can I just ask you one last question? I know people have heard us talk about a lot of investment in the campus in general, middle school, high school, Hopkins, Elmwood. Would you say, what are your top 2 priorities, or what is your top priority among all the building that has to get done for anyone who hasn't been, sort of tracking our conversations?
Right. For us right now, it's the Elmwood and Hopkins projects. Obviously Elmwood's going to take several years to complete, but Elmwood and Hopkins are the most immediate because that's where we're going to see the most students most quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
And they give you like a safety valve, right, for like middle school, which also needs expansion at some point. But by bringing forward 3 grades into the new Elmwood school, Hopkins has the 6th grade now, so the middle school suddenly has breathing room.
In the high school.
It does buy us time.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. So that brings us into our regular public comment period. Anybody want to make a regular general public comment on other things? Okay. Then that moves us into recognitions. So does anybody have any recognitions that they would like
Why,
to make?
yes, we do. We would like to say thank you to Leah Batley-Rafferty and Jen Devlin, who will be leaving our committee. The 2 of you have worked so tirelessly with us, and Jen, you kind of made your great return, and it was wonderful just when we needed you to, so we thank you for stepping up. It'll be very hard to fill your shoes, truly. You guys are great committee members. So we have a little something for you.
No, it's not fair. I was only here a year. I don't deserve it.
Oh my God.
Just something to say thank you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
So pretty. Oh my God.
Oh, thank you very much. That's
Oh, they're gorgeous.
You guys are leaving very big shoes to fill here. I mean, you've been unbelievable. And the way, this year particularly, the way you have dedicated yourselves to the E ESPC2 project. You've both been, at all those meetings, and it's been unbelievable. So,
You both took on a very heavy load this year in particular, and it definitely will be missed. I'm very much appreciated, both of you.
thank you.
I'm
You
grateful.
definitely-
I'm very grateful. I was saying before anybody got here to Amanda about how grateful I am to sit on this board with these women. Like I'm incredibly lucky. Like the two of you have been wonderful to me, and I appreciate it very much.
Most of the time.
I know how you feel about my data. I know it.
No, thank you very much. I'm gonna miss it for sure. Yeah. Yep.
There's next year.
Right. There is always next year.
I have a feeling I'm going to be getting texts for the next few months next year.
Yeah, right. Oh, it's great. I hope the momentum continues in the direction it seems to be going this year. So thank you for the opportunity to come back.
Thank you so much. It's been great getting to know all of you, really, honestly, and made really good friends in the committee, and just the way the school operates at a high level has been so eye-opening to me. I have learned so much in the past 3 years that I feel like I can bring back with me to understand more about the businesses I work in and the people around me, and it has been an amazing growing experience. So thank you so much.
You've both been an amazing voice and brought really great perspective.
Yeah.
And we've done so much together as a group.
It was a good year. Thank you.
Oh, I do think sometimes when you're in service like that, you wonder, if you're having an impact. And I think we can tell you that your service really has impacted the way kids experience the Hopkinton Public Schools. So truly, thank you.
I miss seeing you every Thursday and Monday and Tuesday.
But you're
All those My phone number's in the plant if you want to get it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, all right. Then that moves us into the superintendent's report.
Well, I think we'll recognize Robert.
yes,
I
yeah,
know
okay,
we
yes,
said
well-
thank you once, but I do want to say thank you again. And as I told you before, make sure you take that little name tag with you, because that will be a little memento. You can put it on your dormitory door.
Do you want to give a report first? Because normally we're...
Yeah, I will. It's pretty short. So this week was the final week of high school for many seniors. Students from the sophomore class through senior classes took their AP exams, and nearly every student has concluded their testing. Although many of the students were nervous going into them, their teachers reminded them of the preparation and readiness that they've gone throughout the whole year. As AP exams end, seniors on senior project will no longer be going to the high school. They're not required to go to the high school, so some of them do. So they're celebrating their high school finale. Fortunately, the senior class is still sticking together through the success of multiple sports teams. Both the men's lacrosse team and the baseball teams have winning records, and the women's teams are not too far behind. Also, the men's track team placed first in Division II relays, and they've broken 2 high school relay records since the beginning of the season. Finally, a group of about 20 students left for Anaheim, California to compete in the National Leadership Conference of Business Professionals of America. 2 weeks ago, numerous students placed top 10 in their competitions, and even within top 10, multiple students placed top 3. So, I think we had 2 students who got first out of the 6,000 person conference. Those are all the updates.
That's phenomenal.
Going on still.
It's a great way to end the year.
Seems like a lot of exciting things at the high school now. Is there that usual shuffle for the senior parking spots going on? Where
Yeah, there is, and a lot of the seniors aren't too happy about it. They don't like taking their spots. But it's kind of gray area. Nobody knows who's in the right or wrong.
and how about the graduation parade, the car parade?
I'm pretty sure they've got it approved. And you have to sign up, you have to register for it, but I don't have any details on that. I should have.
I think it's the second.
It's the 3rd. It's the day after, the Saturday after graduation. Does that sound right?
I'm not sure.
I think it's on Saturday. and I imagine many of us will be there,
Yeah.
waving at you and
You'll see me in the
everybody else.
Subaru. Cross trip.
We'll make extra noise when you go by.
Oh yeah, I'll
Yeah.
make noise too.
We'll definitely do what we can to embarrass you in that moment. No, congratulations.
Thank
You did a
you.
great job this year.
And again, thank you for everything that you have brought to the table this year.
Of course.
We will definitely miss you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the lessons.
And good luck in college.
Thank you.
That's a big
Yeah.
thing. We'll be thinking about you.
It's stressful.
You'll be tuning in, I'm sure, on Thursday
Of
nights.
course, yeah.
H Camp's gonna be very popular in your dorm for sure. Did you already tell them what you're gonna study? I can't remember.
No, so
have a plan?
Claremont McKenna is liberal arts,
Okay.
so I'm not decided yet.
That's good.
I think I want to go within business, but I'm not sure.
And then the nameplate will come in handy.
Yeah, well, nameplate's gonna come in handy with that. I'll do everything with that.
Great.
Great. Okay, all right, we'll move into the superintendent's report.
Thank you. So this is the superintendent's report for May 11th, 2023. We have some student successes at the Micah Solo and Ensemble Festival that took place on Saturday, and the Jazz Ensemble at Hadshell on Sunday. Just a couple of pictures of the kids. And so these are all of our successes. The middle school solo performances are Shia Tharakava Bhushanam. I practiced all day too and I still got it wrong. Got a gold. Yuli Kwan, gold. Jacob Wu, gold. Aritro Chatterjee, silver. Urmi Chowdhury, gold. Kira Konyak, silver. Olivia Weidenman, silver. And Sahasra Sharkam, silver. Our HMS Small Ensemble String Trio earned a silver. Our HHS Cello Ensemble earned a silver. Our high school noteworthy group, and you see them right here, earned a gold. And then Abigail Baskin, she performed a solo. She was awarded gold, and she was selected to perform at the honors concert on May 20th. So all good news coming from the musical ends. Faculty, we had some success at DESE Celebration honoring excellence in teaching. Our own Doug Scott was one of the Teacher of the Year semifinalists, so just nice to celebrate him. And you can see him in the left with Patrick Tutwiler and our Commissioner Jeffrey Riley on the right. The MSBA signing of the design enrollment certification. So I know we've talked a little bit about moving from feasibility to the preferred schematic design phase, but I think what's really important to note about this, and I think we'll be sending out a press release, is that the MSBA has kind of certified our design enrollment, which is, it's really nice for us to be in this place. What the MSBA is saying is in grades 2 to 4, they are anticipating 1,195 students. So it's so many people are asking, do you really think that you'll have 1,200 kids in that 2 to 4 school? And I think that the answer here, sort of resoundingly from the MSBA is yes. And so it's a big deal for us. Sometimes when folks sign these, it's not too much of a big deal, but because we have so many enrollment issues, it's nice to get that kind of confirmation.
This also reminds me back to when we were working at this point with the Marathon School, that we were in a different place where there was some disagreement over what the enrollment was going to be, and sure enough, we did need to put not one but 2 additions onto Marathon. This is really, I would think, exciting that we're more in alignment with the MSBA.
Yes.
And that's almost 400 kids a grade, which is great because we know we're going to get there. Excuse me. So that's fantastic.
Just as a FYI, this is a huge step. We passed feasibility. This is amazing.
Right.
There was a ton of work. People were meeting, I don't know how many times a week, doing the design work for us, meeting with the town, meeting with all the stakeholders, meeting with the MSBA. I mean, this was a huge effort. So this is a really big step that we should be really proud of.
All right. We have not mentioned this publicly yet, so I just wanted to say congratulations to Dr. Zaleski as she transitions to interim superintendent in the Western Public Schools. I think the other folks that have been leaving us, we didn't mention them, so I did want to celebrate Dr. Zaleski's move as well. And then obviously saying thank you once more to our departing members.
Thank you.
And that's all I have for you.
Questions?
I know there's a lot of good stuff in there.
the kids' end of the year activities.
It is a
Fun
happy
report.
report.
We have really exciting news coming from our middle school robotics team, but they're going to be here with us on the 25th, so I'm not mentioning them tonight.
That's great. It's a cliffhanger. So
It's a
we get more
cliffhanger.
viewers.
It really is.
They may have made or may not have made the news, so it might but that's exciting.
It is exciting for them. We were at town meeting, I think, when they were winning. And of course, like the whole middle school is texting. Everybody's phone is blowing up. It's exciting.
So many good things going on. The one thing that caught my attention was when you were talking about the music, all the music awards. I was thinking about those middle schoolers that won the different awards and how those students, it did impact the high schoolers as well, but those students really, they were learning their instruments and learning the beginnings of the music during the pandemic, and that really is a tribute to our music department that they were able to bring musicians along in spite of some of the challenges that pandemic learning brought. So
Yes. Yeah. And I think in the pandemic, music probably suffered more than most other disciplines because, the nature of singing and playing an instrument produces a lot of breathing. And a lot of, well, we've had all kinds of conversations using the word spittle at the time. We try not to use that word anymore.
all right, so that brings us into the school committee chair report. Payroll warrant S23022 has been approved. Warrant 23-058 has been approved. All in the package. Do people have any liaison reports?
I'm not like a true liaison report, but the Freedom team wanted to extend an invitation to the school committee and the administrators and anybody who's watching, which I guess would be my dad, to come to the Pride Parade on, we're holding it at the HCA on June 11th. It starts at 1 o'clock. And we're going to take like a short walk, but there's also going to be performances and there's going to be vendors, and we've got, it's really, usually Freya Proudman, the one that helps us, is the first year we haven't done it, we're doing it without her, and we're just like hoping it's as good as when she was running it. So I just wanted to extend that to everybody on the board.
So I would be interested in participating as a school committee. Again, we can, after we reconfigure, discuss again. But I also noticed, I was looking at what was put out publicly, that the route has changed this year. It's exciting because this event has grown. This is the third year, right?
Yeah, this is the third year.
It's really exciting to see.
We're going to
the
go
way
on
it's
real
grown.
streets.
Right.
The first year it was the track and field.
Because of course that was things were so uncertain with the pandemic and the ability to hold a big event like that, and the concern about being able to contact trace, and it's nice that it's moving off the school campus
Like
to
a
more
real
public,
parade.
right? To an area that could potentially attract people to participate that might have forgotten it or just happen to see, hey, what's going on.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
It's good.
It's a good event for sure.
ESBC2 liaison report.
Yep.
We have made a first vote on what type of HVAC system we want. We selected the greenest system. There's a lot of pieces to that, so I don't want to sit and talk about like all the little details. There's a lot recorded with the ESBC2 meeting on Tuesday that would outline why we selected that. There was a lot of discussion. So that's going well. There were visits to different schools and a lot of cool feedback on like, oh, look at the design of the sinks in this school and the designs of the ceiling in this school so that it helps with noise in large cafeteria or large auditoriums. And so there was a lot of interesting information on that, but we primarily really focused on that HVAC system.
That was definitely the main focus, yep.
Can I ask, when is the next ESBC meeting? Just thinking about it, we don't reconfigure until May 25th, and I want to make sure that we have people representing us there.
May 23rd.
Okay.
It looks like it's the next one. Yep. And there were representatives from the Sustainable Green Committee at the meeting too, which was good because the net zero resolution was passed at town meeting, and everyone sort of is working towards that goal, so that was great too. So I don't know, I think the slides are Elmwood School project now. I'm thinking, what's the name of the website? It's the Elmwood
Project.
Elmwood Project, yes, okay. But if anyone is interested in seeing more about specifically slide 19 and 20, do a nice sort of side-by-side cost analysis, benefit analysis.
Yeah.
So, and Sustainable Green was very pleased that the decision was made to go with the greenest option.
I think another thing to note is for anyone who shows up on the 23rd, they want to do a test well, and there's been some discussion about the cost because there's like a $20,000 difference between the money they have left for feasibility, the money that they got for the traffic study piece, that's ours. So we gave them money for the campus study piece. And what they would like to do. So there's some hard conversations that are going to happen this next meeting. So anybody who's slated to go, if you want to talk to me or Jen, I mean, I'll be available on a phone call.
Is that going to require a vote on that date? Because
Yes,
that's a
it'll be
logistical
money.
piece.
It is
that we need
yeah.
somebody to be sworn in and
Because-
appointed by the committee in order to.
It would be very helpful if that
Because
could
they
happen
need
by
to
then.
have as much as possible done by August so that they can have a more specific cost for the special town meeting.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the 23rd is the kind of last date that
For that, yeah.
Okay. I am available. I don't know if anybody else has interest in going, and I would be willing to go be sworn in for that meeting. And then if somebody else wants, I'm happy to continue with it next year or not, depending on what the will of the new committee is. But I think I could be sworn in to go and vote at that meeting, and then somebody else could be sworn in if that's the will of the committee going forward. Does that make sense to people?
Yeah.
Unless-
Do you need to vote on that? Do you want us to vote?
I think a
To
vote
appoint
would,
you?
I think a vote would be helpful just to have some authority that I'm representing the school committee.
Can I make a motion to appoint Nancy Kavanaugh as our new E ESBC2 school committee representative on the ESBC2 subcommittee?
Second.
Or committee, I guess.
Fantastic.
A motion by Amanda, second by Leah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, and so I will cover that meeting.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
And like I said, if you have any questions or whatever, just
Oh, I will.
Yeah, and I can share all the most recent, and I keep all the links to the agendas and stuff, so I just share that out with you so you can have access to all that in one place.
Appreciate that. My phone just buzzed and came through.
There you go.
The website has been excellent, though.
The website is a wealth of info too, for sure, yeah.
Well, and it's an easy website to remember.
Yes.
Any other liaison reports?
Do you want to do your last policy?
Oh, policy, yes. So we reviewed 2 policies. All right, hold on, let me go get those. I've got the ESBC 2 notes up. I don't have policy notes up. Well, tonight we'll take a second look at our CPAC policy. And the policy itself we didn't really touch because it seemed like we were in a fairly general consensus between CPAC and the school committee. But we did take another look at the procedure and did some work on the procedure. One of the things that we focused on was because this is our school committee procedure, we focused on what we are going to do and what the district is going to do. We didn't want to impose what the CPAC needs to do. So there were some things that were suggested in the last meeting that felt like they were things that we can't require of them. So if they want them, by all means, they can have them in their procedures. So anyway, you'll see it tonight. And then the other thing that we talked about was,
Sorry, just
Please
I don't,
add, yep,
I don't think we're doing the procedure tonight.
No,
They were-
just the policy.
We
Just the
wanted to
policy.
wait for the new committee members and give it more time.
okay,
for us
so the
to
policy's
revisit
in
it.
for
Yeah,
tonight.
just the
Okay.
policy.
That's even better because that
That's
would
an easy one.
Yes. And then the other policy that we looked at quickly, GB. Do you remember the
I
letters?
think it was GBEB. GBEB. Yeah, I think so.
I'm gonna find my notes. Do you remember the? Go ahead if you've got it in front of you.
GBEB is, I think, staff conduct. It's not a policy that we currently have, and there are two policies that we talked about looking at. One was student conduct, which we didn't get to, and the other was staff conduct. We realized when we looked at our policy manual compared to the MASC manual, our section on personnel is very light. We have very few policies there. Most districts have GBEB, which is sort of a general statement of the school committee's expectations of staff conduct. So we are beginning to explore the MASC reference policy as well as other policies for staff. And then we have the student conduct policy to look at. Ours is, our student conduct policy has an identifying name that I think is a little bit, it's a little misleading. It doesn't represent what MASC has, and it doesn't have the same content. It needs to be overhauled, in short. So we're looking at those together, and that work has just begun.
Right.
And we will be needing another policy subcommittee
Right,
member.
that was in my last meeting, thanks. I know, we got that one started, good luck, right? But it is an important one, and I think it's important it is one that we don't have, even if we do have a code of conduct of sorts in the employee handbook.
Yeah.
We felt it was important for it to be in the school committee's policies as well.
So if any members, want to take a look at the MASC GBEB policy, and, if you have any thoughts, you can send them to us for consideration, or to Dr. Kavanaugh to bring.
Thank you.
That's great. I greatly appreciate all the work that has been done on policy, and the deeper dive of not just kind of looking at what's in front of us, but comparing what MASC has and what other districts have, and really keeping on top of what we have. So, thank you. Okay, so I am going to suggest that we take the facility use fees out of order, because I believe Mr. Person may be here for that, unless you're planning to stay for the whole thing.
We're always happy
is that
to
okay?
have you.
I always perk up. So.
It's like meeting number 4 this week for you, so it would be nice if you could get home before 9.
That's
One
what I
day
was
this
thinking.
week, right?
Dr. Kavanaugh and Mrs.
All right, so facility use fees. Done. Susan, that I think is.
Did you want me to?
Oh, I taking it out of order. I have messed up the order of the. If we have any fillers with little public service announcements we can make while you're pulling that up.
There you go.
Oops, I forgot what I was doing. I probably could have let you know sooner that I was thinking that would be out of order.
That's okay. This be a little better. Okay, so what Tim and his assistant, admin assistant Katie, who really did a lot of work on this, did some research on where we are with our rates of renting the various places in the school for different groups, excuse me, compared to neighboring communities. So just as a refresher, group 1, let's see if that's.
It's been a little while since we've looked at these.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
When you say, I do remember now as you're pulling that up, I think where the different groups get charged.
Yeah, so I think there was really two reasons to kind of look at it. One, we were noticing that we were getting a lot of other districts, community members looking to rent our facilities instead of, their facilities in their own town. So it kind of makes you question, why you're coming to Hopkinton when you could be in Westboro or Ashland, and it turns out our fees were a lot lower to rent out. So that was one good reason. And I think the second reason is that I think it's just costing a little bit more to, operate the buildings after hours. Custodial fees are a little higher than I think when we originally put these out. Tech fees are a little higher. Keeping the lights on is a little more. So all that kind of played into the fact that we needed to take a look at these, and I don't think our increases have gone overboard by any means. I think it kind of puts us in line with other towns comparable to us, and just gets our overtime fees that we have to pay for after-hours use kind of in line with what we're paying out. So we're never really looking to make money on renting out our facilities. We at least want to break even though. And so you'll see with the increases as we go, kind of why we made some of these moves. So,
Yeah, so I apologize. This one schedule was supposed to be part of your packet, so I can be sure that this gets emailed to you separately. But just an explanation again of the different groups and what that means. So Group 1 includes school and town departments. The departments are defined as a department, committee, or commission that is subject to be appointed by the school department and/or town hall. These are non-revenue generating programs run by organizations with a special affiliation to the Hopkinton Public Schools. Group 2, programs by school support organizations which generate revenue. So this includes revenue generating programs run by organizations with special affiliation to the Hopkinton Public Schools, again, so recognized by the school committee. These organizations shall be composed of Hopkinton residents and HPS students. Group 2 also includes recognized nonprofit parent groups that provide financial support to the school programs. For example, parents who formally organize as a PTO. Other examples, Hopkinton Center for the Arts, and of course the PTO. Group 3 are programs run by town departments and Hopkinton Public Schools affiliate groups, recreation department or town revenue generating programs. So this includes any program of youth, adult community, philanthropic, artistic, or recreational nonprofit organization whose principal office or business address is located within the geographical boundaries of the town of Hopkinton and whose membership consists of at least 75% of Hopkinton residents. So examples are Hopkinton Park and Recs, High Hoop Basketball, Hopkinton Special Olympics. And lastly, Group 4, sponsors by all other organizations. This include program or groups, organization, or activities which do not meet any of the requirements of 1, 2, and 3. These are individuals, private, commercial groups, societies, religious organizations, nonprofits not based in Hopkinton. So that's just a refresher of what the groups mean. So now,
if I could just add in, Susan, I would say Katie did a great job clarifying that language for us too. Katie Putnam, my admin, so she went through, because she really we run our facilities use through a school dude program. So people are able to kind of log in and book their facilities, and they're picking kind of the group that they're supposed to be in. So she added the examples and really clarified the language, so hopefully when people are trying to set up new accounts, they know where they land, or where they should land. We ultimately make the decision at the end. If you put yourself in as a Group 1, but you're really a Group 4, we'll move you to a Group 4. But just to set up their accounts, I think it's hopefully clarifying the language of what group you should be in. So she really did a great job kind of putting that together, and we'll be cleaning up our website as well to kind of.
Can I ask a question? I think it was Group 2 talked about organizations. First of all, thank you to her. It's amazing. I've actually been on the renting side of this, and it's all like, where are we? But anyway, I think it was Group 2 that says programs so recognized by the school committee. I'm wondering is there a list, or is this I'm kind of wondering how we know who that is.
We also had this in, I thought you were going to ask about the policy, because I remember writing this policy a long time ago. Yeah. It's KF is the policy, and I think we need to do this. I'm definitely not trying to throw a wrench in the works, but we have those groups spelled out in the policy too. And I don't know if they so we would have to change this probably too.
Yeah,
which
so
is good to know.
We'll have to look and make sure they match up.
We'll look, and they should pretty much follow what that is. Okay. I think the only thing that we added in were kind of the examples, so people understood what those are, and we took that from just our past, history of using the facilities and how we charge that out.
So that's, it definitely needs to get.
It does need to get
It'll need to get synced, because I think it's different,
And I think like our Group 2 says so recognized by the superintendent. not the school committee.
Right.
Because we're not always convened to vote and acknowledge a specific designation of a committee, of an organization, so it makes kind of more
These
sense.
definitions make, yeah.
Yeah, and we can look
The
through
superintendent,
that and make the changes on our side as well,
Okay.
yeah.
Perfect.
Can we go back to the cost? Because that was, yeah, the difference is significant. Just a quick view in that spreadsheet was wow.
14% inflation.
Yep, so again, if you look at where we are currently, Group 1 is consistently across the board, 0 for everyone. Currently, Hopkinton is $10 in Group 2. Those other communities are at 25 and 35. In Group 3, we're at 15. The other communities go up to 60 and 50. Westboro does not have a Group 3. They jump right to Group 4. And for Group 4, our current rate is 100 compared to the 180, 75, 100, and 300.
And that's per hour, that 300? Is that, I'm just looking at is when you put 4 hours in, that's a significant difference for, it would be 400 in Hopkinton versus 1,200 in Westboro.
Right.
I'll have to clarify that. I'm not sure if that's 300 minimum or
It might be
per hour.
300 for the 4 hours.
Okay.
So even if you rent for 2 hours, you're still being charged the 300.
Gotcha.
So I don't think it's 300 times the 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
The others are per hour, sorry.
No, we only charge for full hour increments, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are our current rates. So the proposal is Group 2 going to 25, which would match the other communities. Group 3 going to 45, which still stays below the other communities, with the exception of the athletic center going to 65. And then Group 4, again, going up a little, 115. So we're still below the other communities with the exception of Ashland and Westwood. So what we also have across the board is your custodial fee. So you will be charged by the hour for the custodian, which is what we have now anyway. It's at the overtime rate, which we increased here because our overtime rate has increased. So it just needs to stay with the rates that exist. The tech fee is new. We have had a lot of demand for somebody to be setting up the auditorium, working the boards and everything else. And if they say they can do it, that's an issue. So, we'll assign a tech person, and that would be their fee. And the service fee, this is what, to the point that Mr. Person was saying, for these low rates, we're not even covering putting on the lights. So this service fee is going to cover putting on the lights, running the heat, the paper towels in the restrooms, the toilet paper, all those other things that you really are not covering by that rental fee. So the service fee is getting us to a point where hopefully we're starting to break even, because we're not breaking even on these rentals.
And do the other, sorry,
I was going to ask the same thing.
do the other communities charge a service fee?
I think it was hit or miss. I think some did and some didn't charge the service fee. I think what the change is going to be is our Group 1. So typically our Group 1 will work within the custodial hours, but because they're working in the custodial hours, you can have, a banquet in the cafeteria and you have 300 people in there, and then they leave, and the custodian still is contractually obligated to work his 8 hours, right, or her 8 hours. So I think even though we're not charging them the overtime for it, I think there needs to be a service fee in order to clean up that mess, or if it does run into an hour of overtime or something like that because the length of what's going on.
That makes sense.
Yep.
I mean, they already had work before
Yes,
the banquet
yes.
went in, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's extra work
Right.
that they're doing.
Yeah.
that they're currently not getting paid for. So this would help extend them an hour if they needed it, type of thing.
Right. And to give you an idea in terms of the usage, so for this year in '23 so far, Group 1 has 31 organizations that qualified, Group 2 11, Group 3 14, and Group 4 only 3. So it gives you an idea of where that usage is. Most of our usage is in that Group 1 free category. So just to give you an idea.
And presumably, sort of HBTO after-school activities would be group 2 or 3. Is it? I forget where that was, because I think all those after-school programs,
The extracurriculars.
The extracurriculars. I know when I was doing that way back when.
Yeah, they're in Group 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've really been great partners to work with. They always pay, which is great. But they're very accommodating, so they've been really an easy partner to work with if we need to move something, because of the school activity that happens, and just very accommodating. I think most of our groups are, so we're lucky to have them, and we're happy that they come in.
So are we voting this price schedule? Is that the idea, or?
The fees are under your purview.
Okay.
So you would have to vote them for us to change.
Are we authorized for the turf field? The turf field is sort of
Separate.
a joint. So when it says fields, it's not including the turf field.
It's excluding the turf field.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to be
Yeah.
clear.
The money for the turf rental goes into a separate thing goes towards the turf.
Okay. No, go ahead.
Is there a pressing, do you need this sooner rather than later because of things that are coming up? Or will it not mess things up if we hold until we get that list cleaned up in our policy?
So organizations are reserving now.
Okay, so now it is pressing then?
It is pressing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I'm stumbling on, well, I'm really glad that you brought this forward. I really think in general our rates need to be brought in line with market more. I think we've been very, very low. I think where I'm getting a little tripped up is the flat service fee, regardless of which space you're using. And I'm thinking about, because these things were close to my own heart, captain's practice. So captain's practice, preseason, it's at an individual rate because it's not a team-sponsored event, it's not official. The kids collect like the $115 for the kids who, it's sort of self-funded. And for them to then pay another $150 to use the field, is...
So I think the service fees would probably just go towards building use.
Okay, thank you. That makes much more sense.
Okay. Any other questions just on the fee schedule? Because we're going to have to come back to the policy piece of it.
And the fee schedule isn't in the policy, just the group, so that's not that big of a deal, yeah.
Do we want to clarify the service fee part before we vote? So amend it so that it actually says indoor versus outdoor.
For indoor, yeah.
Indoor usage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question, and go ahead, I'm just like belaboring this conversation, I'm sorry, I know, but I mean, like, I'm thinking too in the fields, like, if they leave giant, piles of trash, I don't know if you want to limit it just to inside, I know this is minutia, but I imagine there's some degree of service that needs to be taken care of, even in a lot of cases, that what you brought up might be an exception, because even though it's a school team, it's not really during team hours kind of thing. But I know that leaves room for discretion, but what do you think about that? Because your folks are the folks that would have to...
Yeah, I think it would depend on what the event was. So I think we could play that a case-by-case basis, right? So if it was team captains practice, I don't know necessarily that we need to charge them a service fee. But if we have a big event on a field that's going to happen and we require, a maintenance worker to come in over the weekend type of thing. And we're
Right.
using trash bags and
Yeah.
filling our dumpsters with their trash. I think the service fee would then
Right.
make sense.
Right. So that's why I
Like
don't, maybe
family
don't.
day.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Stuff like that. So that's why I don't know if indoor
Yeah,
usage
yeah.
is the way to go with
Maybe-
that, because then your folks are still doing extra work.
Yeah.
Add
those
some things
things.
that it's at the discretion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
understand
and there's
that.
things that I'll reach out to Dr. Kavanaugh for if, if I have a question, if we should charge something to somebody, we'll have that conversation and kind of figure it out from that, so.
And that may be a piece that we have to put in policy.
Sure.
That, the fee at the,
At the discretion
maybe
of. Right.
waived at the discretion of the superintendent or something.
There you go.
Okay.
Oh, I like that better than
Yeah.
having the discretion to add it in, the
Right.
discretion to waive it.
Maybe waive, like the service fee may be waived at the discretion of the superintendent or something. That may be.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
In the policy.
In the policy.
Okay, then,
So, I'm being a stickler based on Amanda's comment earlier. Like my head is turning, and I'm like, well, yeah, but that would also discourage small groups, right? So, if in order to have my captain's meeting, I have to then go and ask the superintendent to waive the service, like that can feel a little heavy. Like, okay, I'm supposed to pay this fee. That's a lot. But in order to not pay the fee, then I have to go all the way up to the superintendent. I can't talk to Tim or somebody and just be like, what do you think about this situation?
Well, I think that's probably what would happen is that you would talk to me, and then if I felt like it's something that, if it was captain's practice, I feel like I could take some liberties with that.
Right.
They're
Right,
students of the
exactly.
school. I don't think Dr. Kavanaugh or Ms. Rothermick is going to eat my lunch for that, right? But if it's the Freedom Team coming in to do something, I don't know that necessarily I would make that decision not to charge them or to charge them something extra.
Yeah.
And I think, just kind of thinking, going back in my head about how this happens, I mean, I think kids use the fields all the time without without paying. And I think it's more when they arrange like a scrimmage or, when there's an official. And the captains, they know how to go to Parks and Rec and fill out the form if they're going to use Fruit Street. I think that's okay to give them a process.
Yeah, and it's really, honestly, it's been a non-issue. They've done it.
Yeah.
I've been here 6 years now. I think, we've worked well together over those 6 years, many different captains, so.
Okay. I just don't want to discourage.
Yeah, no, I don't think it would, honestly. I think,
Okay.
I think if they felt like I was going to charge them too much, they would just come use the fields.
and we could find a way to finesse it in the policy to
Yeah.
make it sound less
Okay.
scary.
Sounds good.
Okay. Is there somebody who feels like making a motion to approve the increase in facility use fees?
I will make that motion. So moved.
So there's a motion by Jen. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Second by Holly. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you very much for bringing this forward. Important to not be operating at a loss.
Who knew it would be a longer discussion like this?
And thank you
Sometimes
for
these
coming
things
out for your
snowball.
10th meeting this
No,
week.
I'm happy to come, and sorry to see you guys go, and hopefully we'll see you around town and pop in.
Definitely.
Thank you. We'll haunt the SB2 meeting for sure.
All right, so I want to circle back then where we left off at the Director of Student Services search, and that is Dr. Kavanaugh. Ties nicely into your public congratulations for Dr. Zaleski.
Well, we thought they would go hand in glove tonight. Yes. I'm not sure why that didn't work. Oh, did I just undo it? I think I did. There we go. Okay, so we want to talk tonight a little bit about the search for a new Director of Student Services. Tonight I'm going to recommend a hiring procedure. According to Mass General Law, the responsibility for the hiring of an administrator of special education actually falls to you. So the Director of Student Services is technically your hire.
So I just want to talk about the process. We posted the position and we have received 12 resumes. Now, sometimes you get resumes for people who, aren't even certified to take the job. So what has happened so far is that Mr. LeBron and I have gone through the process of looking at those 12 resumes. What we did was we had some screenings with 7 people who were absolutely positively sort of qualified for the position. After those screenings, we have 5 candidates that we are recommending to you for your review and consideration. We are absolutely happy to share with the entire committee all 12 resumes, so you can kind of take a look to see who has applied. The 5 candidates that we are recommending to you have experience that we believe makes them very highly qualified to serve as the Director of Student Services here in Hopkinton. All right, so the plan and the timeline. I will tell you that the timeline is very short. Mrs. Polnick has already gathered a group of people who are willing to serve as the first round of interviewers. And right now, we are recommending that those first round of interviews take place on Tuesday, May 16th, so that is next Tuesday. The people who are on that team, there are teachers, there's a team special education team chair, a CPAC member, 1 administrative assistant, 3 building principals, the head nurse, a paraprofessional, and a school committee member. And just for everyone's edification, because this is technically a subcommittee of the school committee, because we have a school committee member there, then all of those people will need to be sworn in at town hall in order to be able to participate on Tuesday. And I believe town hall closes at 2 on Fridays. Is it 2? It's early.
It is early, but they could also do it Monday or Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning is probably too early for the timeline, so it would have to be tomorrow by 2
p.m. or Monday. All day. Then the second round of interviews would take place on Monday, May 22nd. And typically what we do is we put all of the central office administrators together. So for example, Mrs. Rothermick, Mr. LeBron, I, Mr. Ghosh, the people who would work very closely with the Director of Student Services. And out of that meeting, we would take all the feedback from the first round interviewers, and we would try to come up with 2 to 3 candidates to push forward to public forums. Depending on where we stand with that. Typically 2 or 3 is where you want to go. People may be wondering, why are you not putting all 5 through to those public forums? And that would be somewhat unorthodox to do, because if you are a very high-ranking professional in a school district and you're looking to make a lateral move to another school district, or even if you're looking to make a different move to another school district, it's very unusual to be one of 5, because once you become one of 5 and you go before the entire school committee that has to deliberate publicly, now everyone knows that you have applied to a job. So people are kind of reluctant to say, I'm happy to move forward in a pack of 5. I would prefer to move forward with either 2 or 3, because then I know I'm truly a finalist, not just a candidate. So from there, on Wednesday, May 24th, what we'd be looking for is to have a couple of forums and formal school committee interviews. So the staff forum for anybody in the school district who is a staff member, whether you're a paraprofessional or a building principal or a teacher or whatever your role is, you would be able to attend on Wednesday, May 24th. The same thing with a school committee interview. That could happen on Wednesday, May 24th, and then also a public forum for any family member, resident who would like to come. That public forum would happen. The way we typically run them is at the hour of 4 o'clock would be for staff, the hour of 5 o'clock would be for the school committee, the hour of 6 o'clock would be for the public, something along those lines. Once we finish with that, the school committee can then engage in public deliberations. So let's imagine we're down to, say, 2 finalists at that point in time. You will need to deliberate publicly. So you have to have conversations about the 2 candidates. We are thinking about 2 weeks out, so the meeting that would follow this 2 weeks from now on May 25th. And then you would discuss which one of those candidates you would like to hire, and we would be happy to make that recommendation to you if you wish, and then we would go into executive session so that you would very likely authorize me to enter into negotiations with the person, and we would talk about what the parameters of hiring would be in that person's contract. And if all of that happens the way we anticipate it would, and the person accepts the position, we would announce the selectee on Friday, May 26th. So tonight, what we're asking for you to do is have conversations about this, but ultimately to approve this process, which includes the makeup of the interview committees. And at this point, I will hand all of this over for you to have discussion.
Question on the Tuesday interviews with the subcommittee. What are the hours that those are likely to, what is the time frame? And I'm asking because it would make a difference to whoever is going to do it for the school before they sign up to do it as a school committee member.
It's definitely scheduled to bridge morning into afternoon, so
like 9 to 3-ish or something in that.
Yeah, I'll do it.
So, and just for folks at home while you're looking that up, this is different than the other hiring processes we have going on. We've been looking at principals, which are not the school committee's selection hire. The only other two that we really make decisions on are the superintendent and the director of finance. So it has been a little while since we've done that. I do remember when we hired the superintendent that we brought forward 3 finalists that came before the school committee for the final interview. So that does seem to match what my recollection is of what we've done historically. I don't actually remember when the director of finance was hired at the exact. It feels like
it was a very long
time ago.
It's between 9 and 2 is the start and end time for Tuesday, the 16th.
I think it's a good thing we haven't had to do this process in a long time, right? I think that makes me happy.
I agree. It's a good thing. People have questions.
This is very straightforward. It seems like, it's a short timeline, but it's very straightforward.
I do really like the makeup of the first round of interviews. I think it's very comprehensive. Yeah. I like all the perspectives that are going to be in the room to help think through the candidates.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone else has interest, but I would volunteer to be on the school committee representative if other people would like it, but I have the availability, so I could make the next Tuesday and whatever follows. I would ensure to prioritize it.
I also would be interested, but I don't see why we couldn't do both of us do it, because we're not a quorum of the committee, and we're making up.
And truly, it's
more voices is a good thing, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I was going to actually ask if we could have, unfortunately, I'm not available, so I can't do it, but in that the decision will ultimately rest with the committee. 3 of us will be on the committee at that time. We'll have 2 new members.
Yeah.
To me, if we can have, without violating OML, which we can, 2 of you there and you're available, I would love to have you both there.
Yeah.
Personally.
I would be very happy to go. Yeah.
Okay. So we need two separate things. One would be a motion to approve the procedure for hiring the new director of student services with the change that there would be 2 school committee members on that. Yeah. And then I think we need a separate motion to appoint Holly and I to be representing the school committee on that subcommittee.
I hate to ask this, but do we need to have a separate motion to create a subcommittee? Before, or
I think you do.
I think we do. I do. No, I
So we
think
need
we
3
do.
motions here.
I think we need to approve the process, create the subcommittee, and then appoint 2 members, if that's what we want to do.
Okay, so let's start with these.
To approve the procedure for hiring the new director of student services.
So there's a motion by Leah. Is there a second?
As amended, sorry.
As amended, thank you. Is there in the amendment being that there would be 2 school committee members?
Yeah.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. So that is unanimous, and the student services procedure for hiring is approved. I now would seek a motion to establish a subcommittee as part of the procedure for hiring a new director of student services.
So moved.
Okay, so there is a motion by Leah.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes?
I don't know where I interject the question about the motion. Does it have to reference the composition that was put forth? I think it probably should.
I think that's a good point. So if you'd accept a friendly amendment to include in the motion the composition of the subcommittee as outlined in the plan presented with the addition of the second school committee member.
So do I have to retract my motion? Or can
I think you just have to accept
as
it.
amended?
As amended.
Okay.
Okay, so there's the motion. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Second by Jen. Is there any other discussion before we authorize this subcommittee? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And the final motion that we need here would be a motion to appoint Holly and I to represent the school committee on the newly formed subcommittee for hiring of the new director of student services.
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion by Leah. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jen. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay.
Just one question on not anything we voted, but the timing of the meetings on the 24th. And I think, personally, I think I can make the 5 o'clock or whatever our school committee timing would be. We have 2 members who have yet to be elected, and a lot of people work full-time as I do, so I don't know if there's any ability to have the staff maybe a little break for dinner. And then maybe, I don't know if that would work for you. I know it's a late night for folks.
So you're thinking staff at 4,
Yeah.
and then school committee at 6, and then public at 7.
I think that we'd have a better chance of success with the new members if we can push at least till 6. 5 is really tight for most people.
Agreed.
I like that.
I like that idea. I did also reach out to the 3 candidates for the school committee to alert them of both this interview potentially coming up on the 24th, but also we have an interview on Tuesday for the Hopkins principal finalists. So we've got a lot of
Georgia
stuff.
sent us a whole beautiful list, and I appreciate her. So I want her to
She
know
did
that.
send a great list, yeah.
Oh, Georgia.
Yeah,
She keeps us
she's
organized.
wonderful. Like, you're saving my life. I don't know what's happening.
So Holly, we have added you to the spreadsheet, and just so you know, you will all get the 12 resumes in the morning.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so that you'll be able to see them.
Did you also add me to the spreadsheet?
Yes,
Okay.
Just clear, per what you said up here at the finals, we had access to the resumes, school committee confidential.
Yes.
Yes.
So just to be clear on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even though we're discussing it in public forum, the content, because it's personnel.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we'll say to all of the interviewers as well is that you absolutely cannot breathe a word of who's there, because people don't want their own district to know that they might be applying to another job. So I guess the same would go for the resumes you receive.
So question on the subcommittee, have the other members that have been gathered for the subcommittee been notified that they need to be sworn in at town hall?
That will happen, if not right now, first thing
morning.
tomorrow morning.
Okay, that's great. And I will update the timing for the 24th for any of the school committee candidates who are not watching right now, just to let them know the time is going to be 6 o'clock. So
I really appreciate this procedure, and the process you laid out. I know it's aggressive, but this is such an important position. People look for jobs at this time of year, and we don't want to delay.
Right. You don't want July 1 to come and it's
Right.
still open, yeah. So I think that's a great.
So people are wondering why we're pushing this through. It's to get the best candidates.
Right. Yeah. We have people that applied in good faith, and we want to acknowledge that's a big.
And for anyone looking for this role, we'd love to have sort of
the best.
We want the first pick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
okay, so
Just telling Kim Polnick what's happening.
thank you.
Right?
So that then brings us into the financial aid report. Mrs. Rothermere.
I will get off the screen.
Okay. And I appreciate you bringing this back for us to discuss here. I know that the bus applications just recently closed, so it was a fast turnaround. And for folks at home, again, this part of why we had requested that this be brought forward to as a report at the committee is because last summer we, as a committee, decided that we wanted to lower the threshold that it would allow families to qualify for financial assistance for things like bus fees, athletic fees, things that we charge fees for, just to acknowledge the different socioeconomic needs in the district, and that there are people who maybe don't fit into the free and reduced lunch, the federal poverty guidelines, who are still in need of financial assistance. So with that, I will turn that over to you.
With that, so I blew this up, but it looks a little fuzzy to me, but hopefully it's clear. This is where your income levels are now. So for free fees, they are 200% of the federal poverty guideline. So for a family of one, it's $27,000, down to a family of 8 at $93,000. That's for your free, and reduced is at 250%. So that's the change that you made last year. And just as a reminder, the income threshold change that you did. So again, the lowering for a family of one, you decreased that threshold by $6,700, family of two, over $9,000, all the way down again to a family of 8, decreasing that by $23,000. So that's the move that you made last year, just as a reminder to what you did. In terms of the numbers, this gives you the history. So in FY24, so these are families that are applying now, which really, it covers the bus that they're signing up for now. As a for instance, there are 60 students that have signed up for financial assistance, and of those, just to give you an idea with the fees, 58 of those are grade 7 and up. So you can see the numbers that were denied for this year is 0. And what I'm giving you is the impact. This is really for the bus, because anyone who signs up this way, we automatically put them on the bus. So that's the impact of the 58 students, in grade 7 and up, for the bus is $11,000. Talking with the athletic department, we had 22 students this year get a free fee for athletics. So not the 60. That's why it's easier to give you the bus impact, because all 60 or all 58 are put on the bus. All 60 are put on the bus. 58 would have been paying. So that's that financial impact that you're looking for.
Is that fully free, all 58, or is that partial and free?
These are all free.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, the 11.6, where does that come from?
So that's a reduction. That's $11,600 that we did not collect in bus fees.
So it's $200 times
the 58.
Okay.
This is a process of opt-in as opposed to opt-out. Like, we're asking families to contact you to have their fees waived. Is that accurate?
So for the bus, the process right now, it's integrated with the school lunch program.
Okay.
So if a student is directly certified to be free or reduced, the online program, My School Bucks, when a parent goes in to pay for the bus, as a for instance, the system already knows that they're free.
Okay.
So they'll sign up for the bus, and when they go to check out, it makes it 0.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So we've had families contact us and say, I don't get it, I can't pay.
Like, that's a good thing.
Yeah, right. So, it automatically recognizes, and so they cash out as free.
Have you found this to be more difficult with the free lunch across the board for everybody, or is it still something that the state still tracks that?
This is how we've been doing it for years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so in the 60 students, while I say that they applied for financial assistance, most of them fill out what's called the sharing information. So they know they're on free or reduced lunch, and they just sign a form that says, yes, I want to share that information. because we can't access the listing of free and, because that's, protected.
Right.
But they'll sign a form that says, yeah, sure, you can have that information. So they're not even going through that whole application process.
Okay.
We get very few applications. Most are just, yes, I want you to know that I'm on free or reduced lunch.
Oh, that's interesting, because we increased the threshold, right? And so you're not really getting anything beyond like the federal property limit kind of threshold for free and reduced lunch.
No, so we're most of the students, I would say, we may have received one application that was not on the free and reduced. However, they had services, so they should have been.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know how they didn't fall, I don't know how they didn't get captured. And I know the state has increased the amount of programs that they access now to directly certify. So, like I said, we only had one application that was actually not on, but they should have been.
From your perspective, do you think we're missing anyone? Do you think there's any families out there that might be hesitant to come and ask for it for whatever reason?
I would say no, because when you get directly certified, the school lunch program mails a letter to all families that says, you have been, certified, this is only for lunch. If you feel you need assistance, they have the financial assistance part in their letter.
Okay.
And athletics always will reach out, guidance counselors reach out. So there are a lot of eyes on the kids in the schools.
Yeah.
So I don't see that we are missing anyone.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
would wonder, though, about families that are that they don't meet the federal guideline and they are reluctant to reach out for a variety of different reasons for anybody and maybe don't show outwardly that there's a problem that financially, that those people that are kind of in the middle between, making it comfortably okay and those people who are clearly struggling in ways that it becomes apparent to the school. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's hard to find.
Right, but I guess what I'm kind of thinking in my head is there a way that to make it more accessible to people to apply for it that wouldn't be pulled out differently?
Yeah, and I think it comes down to communication.
Yep.
So when we send out the notification for, sign up for the bus, it's part of that notification. School lunch sends out, it's part of that notification. So it is in several places. It's right in that parent list on the website. It's one of the drop downs. So, the best thing we can do is continue to reach out and, for guidance and principals to have eyes on the kids.
Too, if we could connect with Hopkinton Youth and Family Services, very aware. I'm not sure that we made them aware of our policy shift, and they often will be a first point of contact for families who are struggling, whether it's a point in time, job loss, or whatever. So maybe we need to make sure that organization is aware of our policy shift. Because the whole reason
I was just thinking
right,
Project
just because the whole reason we changed the threshold was to provide this service for those families that fall outside of, that fall in the gap. And if they're not taking advantage of it.
Well, what I was going to point out was FY 2023, we definitely had a jump.
Yeah.
Right now, that could, of course, be post-COVID related.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to make any sort of conclusions based on the 1 year, but it's also the year we changed the policy. So it'll be really interesting to see in the coming year if we see that shift again. Because right now the number looks very normal compared to previous years. So this past year was an outlier, but the number we have right now is kind of, but we still have the whole summer, right, to go.
That's just bus fees, really. It's not athletics, or it's really just the 1 point.
The piece that's curious to me, and I get the pandemic piece makes it really hard to kind of gauge where things are because people were still working at home or maybe able to drive their kids and it wasn't as much of an issue. But to get back to the number 60, you have to go all the way back to FY 2020, which those would have been ahead of the pandemic, but our enrollment was lower.
Yeah.
It's just a curious
Right, it
piece
makes
because
it
it's
really
the opposite of
hard.
what I anticipated in this report. So
Yeah.
I think I am a little worried because at the end of, we just had the end of the national emergency, so with that also comes cuts in SNAP and WIC project just because that it's big cut in their funding with the end of the emergency. So I'm worried about an increase in food insecurity where these other places aren't being able to provide like a stopgap in between.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm interested in seeing if that comes to us as well, right?
So are you comfortable with our at least keeping where we are for another year? One of our concerns back in August, September was not knowing what budget impact our change would have. And clearly it's not it hasn't impacted our budget. So
Not huge.
Not huge. So are we comfortable with staying the course, even in light of, what we know to be changing with funding in other places?
Yeah. I would think that would be more reason to stay the course.
Right. I mean, yes, I totally agree. But I'm just asking from a budget perspective, are you comfortable with us staying the course?
Yeah, I mean, I think your thresholds where you are now, and I don't know who made the point, it is early, FY24 applications, sharing information will continue to come in. So.
That's true. FY24 hasn't even happened yet.
Hasn't started.
Right.
So we
we are
only have 1 year of
right,
data.
exactly.
And it's a very weird year.
Right. And this is, this is the time where we get that rush,
Right.
but then it continues.
Yeah.
Right.
So people never stop. This is like a.
Oh, nothing ever stops.
That's not great, but.
People move all summer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
I know when we looked at this policy shift or procedure shift, I guess it is technically, we looked at what is estimated to be the cost for a family of 4 to live in Hopkinton, not based on federal poverty levels, but given the cost of housing, which is really the number one cost for most people. And I'm looking back at your chart, and we know that if you have a family of 4 and you're earning $55,000 and you're trying to live in Hopkinton, you're struggling.
Yeah.
That's just not, it's very difficult to
Well, it
provide.
doesn't take into account any existing debts you have. So if you're accumulating debt over a period of unemployment, you're going to meet that threshold, even if it doesn't look like that on paper, right?
Yes.
So it's really hard to figure out, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't think we need any kind of emotion on this. I think we're just looking to
Thank you.
change it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate, yes, thank you. And thank you also for making sure that the information is out there for families to be able to access the information. All right, so we already did facility use fees, so that will bring us into athletic donations. Dr. Kaplan.
Okay, sure. This is very easy. I think I had done a report on this when the event happened, but you do need to accept all of these gifts from the Lauren Anderson Memorial Fund. So those gifts are a storage shed that is valued at $843.74, a softball pitching machine valued at $2,650.94, windbreaker jackets for all the girls varsity softball players valued at $1,760. So the entire donation totals $5,254.68, and this gift will be accepted wholly by the athletic department.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Is there somebody? It is wonderful.
Yes, and again, thank you to Kathy Kilduff and Ricky Anderson for this.
Yes.
That's great.
That's awesome. That's great. I saw their picture, or the picture of the team too.
Yeah.
In the Independent was great. Yeah.
All right, is there a motion to accept the donations totaling $5,254.68 for the athletic department?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Jen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Leah. All those in favor? Aye. And it is unanimous and gratefully accepted. So that brings us down to the assistant athletic director, and I do believe there is a typo in the packet that
There
says,
is.
okay.
For sure, yes.
Okay.
It was alarming, that typo.
Sure is. We'll fix that. All right, so I know that we just had conversations recently about putting in the position of an assistant athletic director. And you also know that we have, in the last 8 years, had 4 different athletic directors. And Kylie Murray is also leaving us as athletic director here in Hopkinton. The job is really overwhelming, I think, and for a couple of reasons. We have more teams than anyone else in the TVL. Absolutely, positively. We have, I think, even a robust middle school program that a lot of people don't have. The second thing that happens here, and this is a great problem to have, is so many of our teams get into postseason play that one season just bleeds right into the next one. So a lot of ADs, you know, if you're not in postseason play, you have a couple weeks off, so you get 2 weeks to kind of catch your breath and then move into another season, 3 weeks to catch your breath. Not ADs in Hopkinton. They are going to the bitter end, in many times they're going to state semifinals and finals, and it's an awful lot. So when Rich was our athletic director, one of the things he had asked was for an assistant athletic director, and we moved Lou into that position. And what's really been happening is Lou has sort of stayed in a more administrative assistant kind of a role. And so what I'm kind of hoping to do is to eliminate that title for her. And so we would be eliminating a 1.0 assistant athletic director and replacing that position with a 1.0 FTE athletic administrative assistant. And I think we realized back when we made that choice that the salary differential is fairly negligible, so it's not like she'll be sort of gaining a lot of money or losing a lot of money. Do you have those numbers? I think you might.
So
it's very close.
Yeah. So the total, it's around 60,000. So just
either way.
Either way. Yeah.
So that doesn't really change our operating budget if that happens. So that gives us the consistency I think we need in the athletic department, but it doesn't solve the problem of some support for whoever our next athletic director is. So what we're also asking you to do is to create an assistant athletic director at 0.5, and that will be funded out of athletic revolving for this year. And we're going to take this for a test drive so that we'll at least have the consistency of Lou, who knows the role, and there'll be a brand new athletic director and a brand new assistant athletic director. So hopefully Lou can keep the ship, righted, and our new people can join and learn a little bit about Hopkinton. Couple of things. One is just for people at home, the athletic revolving account is money that we bring in through athletic fees. Yep. So it's specific to the athletic department. The other pieces, I'm assuming that a piece of why now would be just in part to be able to hire for the assistant athletic director, but also I would imagine this impacts the hiring of the athletic director. It does, because Mr. Bishop and Mr. Lefebvre have already started to look at some of those resumes and have sort of that initial 10-minute screenings with people. And one of the questions that people are asking is what kind of support is there when you have that many teams and that many successful teams. So, the athletic director sort of circuit, they are a close-knit group of people because their only peers are kind of each other across Metro West and then the state more broadly. So everyone knows each other's sort of infrastructures, so people who are looking at our job want to know if there'll be support. As we're talking about this, it also occurs to me we have a number of different search committees going on. Does this also must have a committee as well? It surely does, yes. In fact, I think they got their training today. So we have athletic director, we've had 2 building principals and a director of student services. So it's been a very busy season for Mrs. Pullman. Yes.
We have had such stability for so long. I know. And I think people have, it's interesting that everyone is, at a place where they're looking to grow, but it's a natural progression, but we've just had stability. We've sort of forgotten what this is like. I want to harken back to the Metro West Health Survey results and some of the data around where our middle schoolers are struggling. And I know sometimes people say, well, nobody else has middle school athletics. Like, why don't we just cut that? And I feel like as I look at extracurriculars and athletics, that is a place, these are healthy social physical activity outlets where our students are coming together with trained adults who can organize them. These are positive experiences, and personally, like, I would never want to be in a place where we, unless we absolutely had to, where we cut back any teams, because I'd rather have kids coming together with their peers, enjoying the outdoors or the indoors, wherever they're playing, and a sport, than sitting at home, on their phones, doing social media things that apparently, according to the survey, depress them. So, if we need an assistant athletic director in order to be able to support the breadth of our program, then I'm in favor.
I'm not a sports person, but I completely agree. And for some children, that is their mental health, right? That's the thing that keeps them even keeled, that makes them feel calm at the end of the day. That is a core part of who they are, and we can't remove that if we're saying that we're going to help children's mental health. Yeah. So totally agreed with that.
And I think a little bit of a tangent, but the athletics are one way. I think we also support other programs like robotics and things that help kids find a place where they can.
Absolutely.
Is it sustainable to fund this out of the revolving account on an ongoing basis, or can we only do that on a trial basis? Ms. Rothernick. Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Is it sustainable for us to fund this year over year through the revolving account, or will this have to be brought into another bucket?
I would advise to pay for it out of the revolving for next year.
Yeah.
We'll be able to see if we can stabilize the department, give the kids the support and, those positions, the support that they need, and bring it forward for the FY25 budget. So keeping in mind that we are using our revolvings at a higher pace. So every year we'll relook at it to see whether we can continue to support keeping it that higher pace. So that would be all part of the FY25 budget discussions.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that it comes back to, we have as a committee repeatedly said that we don't want to raise fees to increase the offset for revolving, because that is a hardship on many families. So that would be my thought on that.
All right. So I move to eliminate 1.0 assistant athletic director to be replaced with 1.0 FTE athletic administrative assistant.
Okay. A motion by Leah. Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Second by Jen. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then there's a second motion there.
I move to approve the 0.5 assistant athletic director.
Okay. So a motion by Leah. Is there a second?
Yes, there is.
Second by Jen. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that so passes. Thank you very much for the thoughtfulness that has gone on to bring this proposal forward.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us into old business. We are going to look at policy BDFB, which is the CPAC policy. We are not looking at the procedure. I know we do have CPAC representatives here. I don't know if you guys want to come forward to discuss with us. So while they're coming up, did you receive any feedback from any groups in the district?
We have none, and this is the same untouched policy that we've looked at a few times now.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. I'm Jen Halliday and Jamie Ronca, just for people who don't know you. I feel like we all know each other frequently now. So in terms of, I know you had said at the beginning that you guys did discuss a little bit the policy piece, and one reason that we had of not bringing the procedure forward was to give the opportunity for the new school committee members to come and to reorganize, not to want to rush the process. I would also say it might be worth bringing the policy back again, even at the end of tonight, for the same reason, to allow more discussion on it. But I would be curious if you guys had feedback from either parents or the board, or look at...
We didn't really share that because it was unclear in our last meeting what we should share.
Yep.
Even though Jen did mention that it was public and people could find it, but I didn't want to mass distribute without authorization that it was okay to do so. So I figured once we had the procedures, the next round where we have the procedures, maybe that would be the time to share it for some feedback.
Excellent. Okay. Any other thoughts that people on the committee had, policy working group?
We like the policy the way it was. I mean, I think the policy part was, it said what you need to say, and
Yeah, we didn't feel that any amendment had to be made from last time. So, and really, if we don't, this is kind of our what we're going to do. The procedures is the how we're going to get there. And I feel like we almost need that framework before making a motion and having a vote to approve a policy.
Yes, and also I think the piece of we've got new people coming to have another set of eyes on it too. So
absolutely.
Yes. People comfortable bringing it back for a fourth reading when we bring the procedure to maximize our, and at some point after we have reconfigured. So after May 25th or later, we can talk in terms of schedules if that.
I think it's good to give it breathing room. I mean, it's a new policy, and give people, everyone's busy, so give people more time to look at it. I mean, I don't necessarily think we have to hold up, like, if we're still working on the procedure for a while, we can decide at that time, but I think we can vote this piece, but I don't see any reason we have to rush it to vote it now.
I feel like a piece of, for me, was excited to be able to begin the work, and that piece I think is really important, but I agree, I don't want to rush.
Appreciate that.
So
And this has gone out to the entire school community 3 times. Today was its 3rd iteration.
I haven't seen any emails on the policy. Have you?
No. And that's what you got one email?
Yeah, I got. Are you talking about the? Oh, you mean a feedback
From the community?
Yes.
Please ignore me.
No.
we could never ignore you.
I'm old and tired.
Okay.
On this, you mean, like feedback from the community on this part?
We have had nothing on that part.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to think of special needs families are not going to track down the packet.
It went out as a link, though, I think, to the district as a listserv.
Yeah, I think that we've seen that it's a little more accessible for people to get their eyes on it when it's front and center.
Yeah.
It's obviously the normal way of sending things out, and I know it works for a lot of us, but it can be tricky, especially it's a really exciting, busy time of year.
And this is pretty dry.
It's not exciting reading. I mean, and if you want to wait, you can wait. But the other piece I was thinking of is it's been out there. We can wait, but if it's been out there 3 times, and this is not the part that seems like needs the work, you know.
I just
So
feel like if we voted on this and passed it, I almost feel like there's not the sense of urgency to do the other side of it. I feel like
I do feel urgency for that.
Yeah,
I actually feel, but I also am in favor of not voting on it.
Yeah.
I think I would be much happier if we were able to hold off.
Then let's go.
Okay, we'll hold off.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you.
And hanging in there, we're a little behind schedule.
Oh, no worries.
Okay, so that brings us into the superintendent's summative evaluation. This is the final discussion of this, and just kind of to bring people back, this is the 3rd week in a row, I believe, that we have discussed in some way, shape, or form. The first week, Dr. Kavanaugh presented the evidence for both the goals and the indicators. And just for people at home who have not been following this discussion, I know people have questions about how it is that we do evaluations. The process actually really started last summer when we discussed your goals and indicators in here, and we endorsed those, as well as the process that we were doing. It's I have said this before, it is a very scripted process in terms of looking at what the Department of Ed, how they tell us to do the evaluations. Also true of all the educators in the state of Massachusetts follow. It's not the superintendent specifically, but the educator evaluations. That said, I did, and I apologize, it was late by the time I had kind of tried to merge the documents together. I did the best that I could to make it not awkward coming from multiple points of view. Definitely not perfect, but this is a great opportunity. If people have edits or things, if I did strike a couple of things that were almost identical in what people have said, so we weren't saying the same things multiple times. I am just going to pull up my document.
Do we have the final? We have you sent us.
I sent it back out today because the original copy, I had left some of my scratch notes on that I was, were not part of anybody's, it just was scratch notes to myself as I was doing it. And in part 3, I had not deleted a very unpretty couple of phrases. I mean, they weren't bad, but they just didn't flow as part of a document.
I'm just looking for.
I'm trying to think. I can tell you what time I sent the email, if that would be
I think
helpful.
it's 11:40-ish. Does that sound good?
That sounds about right.
11:44 is what I have.
I think that's the original one. Then I had the
No,
second
the
one.
original one was last night.
Yeah.
Oh, last
Yeah,
night.
yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes, it was 11:44. That was the one. Okay, and the other thing, just we had discussed kind of averaging out our ratings, and that's how these should indicate exactly as we discussed last week.
In the evaluator comments, the beginning, where you very artfully wove together our comments.
Artfully might be stretching.
There are 4 paragraphs that fell outside the box.
They are below
the box. Did you mean for them to be in the box?
They couldn't make them stay in the box.
They would stay in the box. They will not be contained in the box.
They would not be contained in the box.
I don't think that's going to
They disappear.
create any kind of issue.
They disappear when you overshoot the thing. So that
It's just like MCAS. You just stay in the box.
it also could be that my technological skills are maybe not what Desi was thinking of when they designed the form.
Okay.
I know. I like that you just kept going with it. You're like, I'm not done. And you just kept going. I like that.
Okay, so anything flagged for anybody that was outside of
I thought the ratings looked good. I thought the comments looked good. I think there was this late on there's just a little merging of sentences in standard 4.
Okay.
In the 3rd paragraph from the bottom.
3rd.
I'm just gonna. All right. Can I edit this? I can't actually. Between outstanding and building, there's just no space. I think. I'm not sure.
Yes, you're right. That actually is. There should be
A comma, maybe? Dr. Kavanagh's work to establish a shared vision for the Elmwood replacement was outstanding. Maybe a period space, building a shared understanding of our Elmwood growth, the impacts felt today and pending, and the best path forward to address those needs was no easy feat. Okay.
That is correct. I inserted a period and a space just now. Thank you for catching that. Sometimes my eyes start to gloss over things that I've looked at too many times.
And I just noticed this is dumb and don't even look at it. But bottom, it says page 13 of 7, which kind of cracks me up a little.
That's because I went outside the box.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, I don't think it requires adjustment. I just happen to notice.
Oh, I actually can fix that.
It's better than good. Than best.
I'm gonna get rid of all the ofs on every single page.
There you go.
Because oh no, that doesn't work either. It's a footer, so when I delete it, it makes it go away everywhere. I'm gonna get rid of page numbers altogether. Are people good with that? So it's not.
I'm looking at it as a Google Doc right now instead of Word, so I can't even see page numbers.
When I do the Word for proposals and I do page numbers, all you do in the footer is go in, and if it's page whatever, you can delete it and then go up to, is it insert or cross or review or something, and then you just add new page numbers. It takes like.
It does. It worked. Thank you, Leah.
No problem. I just spent like 2 weeks on a proposal and I had to number different clusters of pages differently, so that's the only reason I remember it.
I might get rid of the 2019 too, because clearly we're not in 2019. Okay.
So do we at this point ask Dr. Kavanaugh if she has questions for us, since we've given her the
I
document?
do not. Thank you for everything, Julie.
Thank you.
No, thank
It
you.
was very lovely.
Okay, so this, because it's become a merged document, does require a vote, so that that can become part of the official record.
Okay.
So I would seek a motion. Is there somebody who would like to make a motion?
Sure, I'm,
Sorry.
go ahead, you do.
No, I don't want to make a I'm not
Before it's
good with
too-
motions. I just have a question first. Well, I know last week we did our workshop and we came to agreement. I didn't know if it was important because it was on the agenda for tonight to say what the rankings were. I don't know. Is that important to repeat, or can we? Is it fair just?
We can if you want to, but I think when we went through them last week, we changed them and really, we went home and our task was to work on the comments, so.
It was covered in the paper.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Perfect. As long as that's fine. I didn't read the paper yet, so yes, motion away.
But that was a fair point.
yeah, no, that's true. It was, all right, so I move to approve the final copy of the superintendent summative evaluation.
Okay, so there is a motion by Jen. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Abstentions?
Abstain from the vote, because I didn't participate in the workshop.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so that's 4 in favor and 1 abstained because you were not part of the process, and that concludes the evaluation process for this year. We'll start again in like 2 months with the goal. All right, now I've flipped off of my agenda here. Okay, so that then brings us into future agenda items.
That's everything.
Or
I'm
the
just
future.
sad that I'm gonna miss the technology.
I know we've got technology, and we're still going to discuss some bullying
Can we
pieces. to
bring
come
her
up.
back as a special guest on the board, a future agenda item?
I fully expect that they're going to be here on a regular basis.
Yeah.
You have them sitting in the hot seat.
What is it, a member emeritus?
There we go. So then that brings us to items by consensus.
Okay. As superintendent, I recommend the school committee approve the items by consensus as outlined in your agenda.
So moved. Motion by Leah. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Okay, then that brings us down into a motion to adjourn, unless you want to extend the meeting because it is the last one.
You should do this. You've been here a long time. You deserve the final adjournment.
I move to adjourn the school committee meeting for today.
Motion by Leah. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jen.
All right.
All those in favor? Aye. And we are adjourned at 9:01 p.m. Our next meeting date is May 25th. That will be our reorganization as well as our regular meeting. We do have a couple of interviews that are posted as meetings, but not regular business. And then we will have a meeting on June 15th. I just, again, want to thank you guys both. It has been an honor to sit up here and be colleagues with you.
I agree. Honor's been all mine for sure, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and have a good night.
Good night.